sort of, kind of, in this one-ish.
What?
We get to do it. If Sean wants one.
Who needs one?
You know, I think Colin can
What's your mom?
Alright, so we're going to talk about in this next unit. This unit will take us a while. This is not all of it. This is the first part of it. So our topic is taxonomy, which most people probably in some degrees have not heard of. But what taxonomy is sort of studying how we classify various living organisms. Okay? So lots of different types of science rely on taxonomic classification. Okay? And we'll talk about why and why this is important, what it helps scientists understand, and so forth a little bit today. So this idea of taxonomy is, like I said, the science of how we classify. What does it mean to classify something? Elizabeth? Well, you would probably use observations to classify, but classifying something, Colin?
It's like putting it in a group.
Yeah, sort of sorting similar things into a group. Okay, you could take a bunch of different vegetables and sort them into different groups according to where they grow. Or you could take a bunch of animals and sort them into groups based on their like characteristics. That's what taxonomy is, but not just animals or plants, but with all life. So why is this important? Well, one of the things is humans basically are always classifying. To help us make sense of the world, we put things into groups. We see a big thing with wood and leaves growing on it, we classify that as a tree. Helps us to sort of categorize things. In biology, classification helps us to understand sort of the evolution of living things. How are things related to each other? How are they similar? How are they different? Which things belong together in one group and which do not belong there? So people have always done this, always put things into categories. One of the first scientists that really did this in a systematic way was this gentleman, Carolus Linnaeus. That wasn't his given name. His given name was Carl von Linne, I believe. But he changed his name to that. Does anyone know why would he change his name to that? Any clue?
Because it's like a U.S. is a declension of Latin.
Okay, you're exactly right. Yeah, because do you take Latin?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, he chose Latin as the language of this system that he sort of developed. And he loved Latin so much, he changed his name to Carolus Linnaeus. So he's who we called sort of the father of taxonomy. And he developed a system we still use today called binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature. So what the heck does that mean?
Two.
So what is the prefix bi means? Two. Nomial?
No eating. No eating.
What is it called where you have to write in Latin class? Who takes Latin? Wow.
We're special.
Where do you write your name? What's it called? The line.
The noun.
Yeah, it means name. Comes from the root in Latin. So binomial means to name. And again, nomenclature is a system for naming things. So in this system, every different type of living species gets a two-part name.
Is that why like scientific names are like?
And that's why they're in Latin.
Whoa.
So we'll talk about some examples of scientific names here in a minute. And so binomial nomenclature is in which every single living organism that's been identified by a scientist is given a unique two-part name to identify it. That's separate from its name in English or German or Chinese or any other language. It's a name that's given to all species. Do you know what the scientific name for humans is? I'm sure probably most of you have heard of it.
Homo sapiens.
Yeah, Homo sapiens is the scientific binomial name for humans. All species have a name like that. Like out in the courtyard, there's a white pine tree, that's Pinus strobus. A sugar maple is Acer saccharum. Okay? A cedar, Thuya occidentalis. Okay? Betulopapyrifera. These are all names of trees. Those are their scientific names. So why would he use Latin as the language by which to name these things? Good job.
Because he loved Latin.
He did love Latin, but there are other reasons beside his love of the Latin language. Ollie?
Wasn't there something about Latin was the main root of all languages?
Okay.
Yep.
Not
That
all
is true.
languages, but of the Romance
Yeah,
languages.
Romance.
Yeah. First of all, Latin is a language. Where do people speak Latin nowadays?
City.
Latin America?
Vatican
Rome.
City.
No, not. So the answer is not Latin America, first of all.
Vatican City.
So Latin is a language that is not spoken as an everyday language that people use in their daily conversation. Latin is, you mostly speak Italian.
No, no, habla
Um, so Latin is a language that isn't changing all the time, like English or German or Chinese or Spanish or French. Those languages, constantly new words come into use, words change in their meaning, words fall out of use. So their languages are constantly changing. Latin is sort of a set language, so that's one reason. And the other is that because it's not spoken by people usually as their everyday language, scientists from all over the world can use the same Latin name and understand it. So if we called something, we can call a sugar maple in English, well, there's a different term for that tree in French or in German. And so instead of different people using different words in their own language to name it, we have its Latin name Acer saccharum, and everyone can agree on it. So, what's that?
You say tomato. I say some.
Yeah.
That's
Solanum tuberosum versus Solanum lycopassicum. Those are the scientific names for potatoes and tomatoes. So why give things their unique name? Well, sometimes the common, when we say sugar maple or when we say dog or pig or human, those are what we call just sort of common names. The scientific names are those binomial names we give them. So often they're misleading. Like, what is that?
Jellyfish.
Is it a fish?
No.
It's a piston.
It doesn't
No,
even have a brain.
and it does not taste good spread on toast either. So that's jellyfish is a misnomer
I've had
for it.
jellyfish. Oh, I learned about this in Vsauce.
A seahorse?
Oh my God.
Is it a horse?
It's, no.
No, what is it? People often.
I don't know.
I forget what it's called.
Literally no idea.
It's like a horse.
It is a fish.
Oh.
Yes, I knew it was
Dude, can we watch the Vsauce video?
Ringworm
Oh, that is nasty. That is so nasty.
is not a worm.
What are they?
It is
Disease.
a skin infection that you can get. It's a fungus, actually.
Oh, that's a Mr. Durant.
A starfish? Is it a fish?
It could be.
It is not.
Coral.
It is an echinoderm. It's also not a burning ball of hydrogen. So calling it a starfish is misleading. And so you've seen these animals before?
Yeah.
All right, Roadrunner and
Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote. So are these like on TV ever?
No. I don't know. I don't watch.
Well, if you've ever watched an episode of the cartoon, the Roadrunner cartoon, at the beginning of it, there's like a little intro sequence. And so the coyote's always chasing the Roadrunner around, trying to get it to eat. And as the intro sequence is going by, they're running past the screen, and it gives them like a freeze frame, and underneath it gives a scientific name for each of the species, but they use made up ones. They use like humorous ones, like, and they change them.
Accelerating incredible.
They change them at different times. So those are actual, obviously coyote and a roadrunner, these are actual animals. The actual scientific name for the roadrunner is Geococcus californius, and a coyote is Canis latronus. Alright, so I asked you at the beginning of class about kingdoms. That's a pretty big grouping. For example, in one king, we're in the animal kingdom, but so is a worm. Now so you may say, well, that doesn't really make much sense, because kingdom is a really broad group. As we go down our taxonomic levels, we get more and more specific. So if we look at the top, the very highest level of classification that we currently use is called domain. And we'll talk, there are 3 domains. Every single living thing is in one of 3 domains. We are in the same domain as a plant and a mushroom. So these are huge groups with many varied organisms within them. The next level down is kingdom. Like I said, there are 6 kingdoms which things are usually classified. As we move down and get more and more specific, we go from phylum, class, order, family, genus. Yeah, it's not genius, not like me, not genius, but genus. There's no I in there. And the last group is species. So those are levels of classification. And when we give an organism its scientific name, it's made up of these last 2 pieces. So when I say a white pine tree is Pinus strobus, I'm saying its genus is Pinus and its species is strobus. A red pine is Pinus rubrum.
That was red.
So the names tell you a little bit about how closely related species are. Okay. Things that are in the same genus are pretty closely related. Things in the same kingdom are not nearly as closely related. So let's look at an example here. If I took these 7 animals, and we'll just go through their classification. So all of these animals, the bears, the fox, the squirrel, the snake, and the sea fish, or the sea star, they are all in one kingdom. They are all in the animal kingdom. As we go down a level into phylum, now these animals all are in the chordata phylum. So what's not here anymore? Yeah, the starfish is in the echinodermata phylum. What do you think what do these have in common that the starfish did not?
They all live
Not habitat. No, it's not about where they live. It's not about their habitat.
Blood.
No.
They have brains.
No, but you're getting closer. They have something related to the brains.
Drill.
They have a spinal cord.
What?
Chordata. These are all vertebrates. Yep. Snakes are vertebrates. All right, go down to class. Class Mammalia. So what's gone? The snake, because it's a reptile. These are all mammals. Now we're getting more similar. They all have fur and so forth. Go down another level. Order Carnivora. Okay? This is not really eating meat. That's not what this was more about having the shape of their teeth. But anyway, they're all in the same order. Go down one more level. Family Ursidae.
Bears.
These are the bears. Like Ursus Major, Ursus Minor, the big and little dipper. Genus, Ursus. And finally, we have a species, Arctos. Ursus arctos is a grizzly bear. So, as we move down our taxonomic groups, we get more and more similar to each other. We get more and more specific. We have fewer and fewer types of organisms in each group until we get to species when there's only one thing that's that species. All right, so you are going to have to memorize these. So there are 3 ways, one of which you guys are going to love, 2 of which you're not going to care that much about. So you can remember the sentence. This is the classic, going back to like the 50s. Dear King Philip came over for great soup. A newer and not so nice version. Dumb kids play catch on freeway.
Go splat.
I like that one.
Me too.
Or the way you guys are gonna love is gonna be this little.
If it's about a potato, I'm on.
Let's see, what period are we? We're on at 119. We got 4 minutes. All right, so this will help you to remember as well.
Uh-oh. I'm excited.
I'm gonna love it.
This is before Sean started doing his little drumming thing.
Oh no.
Hold on.
Domain.
Domain.
King.
Kingdom.
Phylum.
Class.
Order. You're such a shy.
All right. So let's look at where do humans fit into our classification system.
They don't.
So our domain is called eukarya. What kingdom?
Animal.
Animal.
Phylum?
A Homo sapien.
No, that you're getting way down to the end now. Phylum, we already mentioned this phylum.
Animal.
What type of animal are we?
Manimal.
No, before that?
An animal. How you?
Vertebrates, good Ashley. They are chordates. Class, mammal. Order, primate. From here on out, there are no other currently surviving species in family Hominidae, genus Homo, species Sapiens.
Are we like one of the only ones that were the only?
We are the only hominids, but there were Neanderthals.
No, but I'm saying are there other families where they only consist of one? What's the last one? Like
No, most have multiple members of that family.
Wow, I feel so special.
Are we a genus and a species?
Hey, no Homo.
Yeah, Homo sapiens is our genus and our species.
I thought it was something like this. Can you go back with me?
Go back.
So smart.
You sure about that?
All right.